Hey y'all, welcome back to this channel or welcome back to see my face. I know it's been a minute me talking Star Wars on the camera in a very direct way, but this had to be done. It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to do this for a minute. With Andor coming up and Star Wars Celebration, Japan is currently taking place, and this was a very perfect opportunity. But also, who I dragged out of a very dark cave is Caleb, who you may know as Star Wars Database many years ago, many moons ago on Star Wars Instagram. But we both decided to come out of hiding to talk about this amazing new Maul Shadow Lord series. So, Caleb, hello, how are you? He's one of my dear friends, one of my best friends. Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. The mall show came absolutely out of nowhere. So did Celebration because I've been so out of touch with Star Wars. Been a minute since I posted on Instagram, obviously. Sad, but maybe I'll come back. We'll see one day. Um,
Absolutely. You
with
never
this
know.
nice new iPad I got, it might make it easier. But yeah, I mean, show looks good.
Cool.
It's kind of like exactly what I'm looking for.
Cool. Yeah. No, and there's no one better for me to talk to with about Maul than Caleb.
Yeah,
Him
big
and I
mall
go
guy.
back. He's a big Maul guy, guys. He's a big Maul guy, and we go back in the day talking about, we grew up together watching Clone Wars and stuff, and so he's just the Maul guy. When I see Maul, every time I rewatch Clone Wars and I get to that Maul arc in season 5, I think Caleb. I'm like, I wonder what Caleb has to say because we always agreed that the Lawless was one of our favorite, if not favorite, episode of the Clone Wars. So yeah, and here we are talking about the legacy of Maul, of what came of Maul after the Clone Wars. And I was seated with Caleb at Star Wars Celebration Chicago when we got to watch the Clone Wars panel, and we got to see some exclusive stuff. And him and I were like screaming in our seats and everything. And at the end, we just like ran up to each other and talked about the Maul stuff that we saw in there, and the choreography and how Ray Park was involved and everything. So that was really, really captivating. So now we're here talking about this whole thing. So I'm going to read this article that comes off from Variety.com, and they wrote a little. They wrote some spiel about the announcement. So they had a panel, Lucasfilm animation panel, and then they announced this somewhere in the middle of all that, in the crux of it. Oh, and they did tell us before Celebration that we were going to get a sneak peek at the future of Star Wars animation. So this year marks not only 20 years for Revenge of the Sith, but 20 years for Lucasfilm Animation. Right after George finished Revenge of the Sith and it shipped off in theaters, he immediately started cracking away at his next passion project, which was Star Wars animation. So here we are 20 years later, and we're still delving into a lot of George Lucas's concepts and everything, which we'll talk about in a second. So Variety published this article this morning. They said a new Star Wars anime series focusing on Darth Maul is coming to Disney Plus in 2026, with Sam Witwer returning to voice the iconic villain. The news of the series, titled Maul Shadow Lord, was announced at this year's Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo on Friday, with Witwer on hand. He previously voiced Maul several times, including in an animated Star Wars The Clone Wars, an animated series Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, as well as the 2018 film Solo: A Star Wars Story. Lucasfilm CCO Dave Filoni and VP of Animation Athena Portillo revealed a surprise sneak peek at the show during a panel spotlighting 20 years of Lucasfilm animation. The final shot of a video celebrating the anniversary appeared to be from the new Maul series, making the crowd go wild. During the panel after the announcement, Portillo said, "Fans can expect to learn a lot about Maul in the series. Unfortunately, I can't tell you too much, but what I can say is Sam Witwer's involvement in the show has been pristine." She said, "I am very excited about him being able to review the scripts and provide input and all of that as well." Wow, that's actually really good to hear. Dave Filoni and Sam created the character for animation, and so it's very important to hear his thoughts as well for the character depth. Whitwer revealed that the series takes place about a year after the Clone Wars, so he's dusting himself off a bit after Ahsoka kicked him to the curb. We learned some things about his character. Whitwer continued, "He's got some different traits that you wouldn't necessarily think he has that make perfect sense from what he's been through." All right, Caleb. So, with that being said, first we got the announcement. I just read you this article that dwelled a little bit about not into what was shown, but a little bit into the circumstance of the series. Um, what are your knee jerk reaction thoughts, just off the cuff?
Well, it's I'd say it's earlier in the timeline than I figured it would be. Because this, in my mind right now, this is kind of just like a not necessarily a replacement because I don't really know how far along the talks of the show were, but the Crimson Dawn centered show with that was supposed to be live action with Ray Park before the incident. Um, this kind of feels like a replacement for that, basically, which um, I think that's great. I mean, this is a story that I feel like needs to be told, and um, I think it's a great way to do it. I mean, animation has been, it's not even arguable at this point, the most consistent medium for Star Wars in the Disney era, especially, which there hasn't been a ton of consistency, you know. I mean, a lot of projects getting shit canned and all that kind of stuff up and down, but animation, I mean, that's always kind of been what I think Star Wars is at its best. That's what I grew up with primarily watching. I mean, obviously the original trilogy, the prequels, all that, but uh, Clone Wars was the bread and butter for me. So this feels good. Feels like it was much needed, and hopefully it's not the last uh, animated show we get set
Yeah,
shortly after the Clone Wars.
yeah, no, absolutely. And look, right now it's 1:11 in the morning for me. I don't. What time is it for you? Is it the same
One
time?
110, yeah,
Okay,
111.
1:10. All right, so a minute apart. But we were just chatting on call. We were just chatting about the mall stuff, and I was like, "You want to shoot a video about it?" So we're literally here off the cuff. I mean, a day later, right? But still, I mean, it's just worth chatting about. And to me, as Caleb said, Clone Wars is my bread and butter. We would not have Rebels without Clone Wars. We would not have Bad Batch without Clone Wars. We would not have a lot of things in Star Wars without Clone Wars. Clone Wars was such a um, pioneer thing to do from George, and really invest all his pocket money into this show, into a CG show, which costs, if not sometimes $1 million per episode, just because of all the labor that goes into it, all the work with scripts and everything. And I mean, just animation is an expensive industry to be in,
Yeah,
so,
I mean
and they really,
he was re-innovating
yes,
or he
all
was
the time.
innovating everything. Like that's
Yes.
just basically George Lucas's MO. Everything he's trying to push the boundaries and do something different, and that's what
And that,
Clone Wars is. It's different
and
and it's great.
right, and that's what we're kind of getting here, because I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a point in Bad Batch where you can definitely tell where, not that it was rushed, but maybe they didn't get a lot of time with it. It just felt, the animation felt very stagnant, stale, and it had to do a lot of with the cinematography. That if there's two characters talking, there the camera would not, there would be no jump cuts or nothing. It would just be two
Yeah,
characters in a room talking, and it would just be
just
so
very
boring. I
blocky.
was blocky, right? And I was so bored with the animation. But what we're hearing about Maul Shadow Lord is that, yes, it takes on what, the elevated animation that Bad Batch has right now, from the Clone Wars model, but it's advanced it even more. And then that even during the fight scenes, it's supposed to be representative of Japanese art styles or something like that. So that sounds really cool. I think that's really cool. So yeah, just off the cuff, I think this is a great announcement. We were supposed to get something like this years ago. Now, like maybe 5 years ago, after Clone Wars had ended, there were big talks about an animated series taking place just like this before, but then some things went haywire with some people involved, and that's just according to the rumors, right? Nothing substantial, but some rumor reporting there. But now we're here, years later, and we're getting this show, so I'm really excited. Some of the best Clone Wars stories have to do with Maul in it, so I'm glad that they're continuing his story on. So yeah,
Was
now
that
that
show originally supposed to be animated? I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it was animated, but I think
I just always
Sam.
assumed it was live action just because Ray Park was involved, but I guess he probably would have just informed some of the like fight stuff
Yeah,
more
that's
so than
that's
anything.
what it was, right? That's what it was.
Okay.
where he was supposed to be kind of like what he did for Clone Wars at the end, being on
Right.
there for the fights and stuff.
Yeah.
But funny enough, Caleb and I, while we're in call, I found the leaked trailer. So if you don't want to know anything about it, if you want to fresh off the, see it fresh off YouTube when it comes out, you can tune off from this point, and then I don't know, skip like 10 minutes ahead. But we're gonna dive a little bit into what we saw in the leaked trailer. I sent it to him, and I was like, "Wait, I've not seen all of it. Like, let's sit down and watch it together." So we literally just did that. So I'm just gonna talk it from the beginning here. And now, kudos to everybody that got to see it at the panel and everything. That is freaking awesome. Like, Star Wars animation has carried Star Wars on its back for years on end. Andor came in and was like, "Hey, let me help you out." But
Hey, I got this for now.
I was like, I got this for now. But it's been pretty amazing how this and like just Star Wars animation is so special, and they released this poster of Star Wars animation throughout the past 20 years. Things from the Clone Wars to Rebels to Bad Batch to Star Wars Detours. You saw some things in there from it.
Shit that wasn't even released.
Shit that wasn't even released. What was the other one? Star Wars Resistance. So I'm just like, this is Star Wars animation is something really special because you feel the passion coming in from those studios. You just feel all the blood, sweat, and tears in the work. If whether you like the episodes or not. Even when I still watch Zero, what's that? Evil Plans from Clone Wars. I'm like,
Zero the Hut.
you know what? When I see Zero the Hut, I'm like, it took some guy on the animation rig like weeks on end, months on end, trying to get some certain movements come out of Zero. Like you just know it. So I'm like, I appreciate everything. So right off the trailer, we see Maul clearly. Wait, do we see Maul? I'm trying to think back. Maybe I should pull it up. Yeah. But we just look. Solo, a Star Wars story left us with, oh my god, I want to see this story with Maul and Kira so badly. And this trailer literally picked up that same vibe straight away. So pretty exciting stuff to look forward to. I just got the vibe that it just felt an extension from what we've seen of Maul in Solo, a Star Wars story, and stuff elements with Crimson Dawn. And I mean, who else? What's that girl's name that we're talking about? That Mandel. That was
Rookcast.
Rookcast is in it. She was introduced,
which is really weird because last time we saw her in
let's chat about
Saxon, they were being betrayed by Maul. But
funny enough, Caleb was like, because I had seen some things. I'm like, oh, okay, Rookcast is in it, and he's like, oh my gosh, wait, is Saxon in it? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I didn't see him in there. And he's like, it would be really weird if Saxon is not in there. I'm like, wait, not really, because if you think back, which actually makes it weird that Rookcast is in it. Okay, yeah. So if you think back to Mandalorian, the Siege of Mandalore arc in Clone Wars, they're at the very end. What is it? Saxon is calling for Maul for reinforcements. He's like, we're heavily like on the ground, like you need to help us. And Maul's like, oh, I'm afraid not. Die well, Mandalorian. And then Saxon's like, no, wait. And then Maul cuts it off. And then he makes his escape. Then Ahsoka, encounters him. But they were so ready to. Maul was like, just built his empire, spent years building his empire. I should say months, not years, but it felt like years, months building his empire with the Mandalorians. And then just kind of washed them away.
Cut
and was
like that.
Right. Just, it was like, I used you, I needed you when I did, and now I don't. So bye. So then Maul makes his escape, right? So then where does that leave Saxon and the Mandalorians? Well, you think that their alliance is kind of pretty much terminated, but Rookcast is still here, so there has to be some type of, I guess, I don't know, allegiance here for some reason. I don't know. I don't.
Do we know for a fact that they'll be working together? Because we saw her in the leaked trailer, but we don't necessarily know for a fact that means they'll be like associated.
Sure.
It could just be that they come back upon each other, and maybe that's who she's shooting at. You never know.
True. No, absolutely. By the way, I wore a red hat because of not because of the Bulls. But
It's fitting,
for
yeah.
Maul. But yeah, no, that's a really good point. We don't know if they're actually in allegiance together, but they were in a shot that looked like they were having they were in the war room trying to break out their talk about the next move or something.
Oh,
But
were they?
valid point, valid point.
Gotta
Yeah,
watch it over again then.
yeah, you watch it over. But I'm just there's a lot in that trailer that I thought that it was more presented as a sizzle reel, but you're over here thinking like, um, if you have that much, like release it to the public. But they're not ready for that, and that's okay. They probably want to promote this upcoming Tales of series, and then maybe sometime after that, maybe in the fall, they'll release a trailer for next year. They might not even release this trailer until maybe 2 months before the show even comes out. You know how marketing is when it comes to Star Wars, especially on the animation realm. But yeah, a lot of Underworld stuff we saw, which was interesting.
Yeah,
Criminal
I just saw it.
elements. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, yeah, I rewatched it quick, and there's a scene where they're walking together. So yeah, I'm curious if they'll touch on that or if that's just kind of something that'll be glossed over. Like, yeah, they're still working together, but I don't know.
Yeah, and
We'll
it's
see.
kind of hard to see from our angle from the video we got because there's a guy's head in the way, so we're kind of
Yeah,
like, and audio's not that great, so we're doing the best we can. But we just wanted two friends shoot the shit about this because, like I said, Maul's one of my favorite characters. When I think of Maul, I think of Caleb sometimes. So there you go. But yeah, and so we have that element there. I really wonder how the Pikes are going to fit into it. How the other like, are we going to see this? This goes
I'm sure
back
the
to that
Black Sun will be
scene
in it.
of
Yeah,
Black Sun as well. Think back to that scene in the sewer of what was it? The Phantom Apprentice or whatever, the second episode in
yeah,
that arc. There's this meeting where Maul has, and it's a really like cryptic meeting where he's like, it's about to end the world. The galaxy is coming to an end. It's about to change. Dryden Voss is there, and I'm like, I see them using Dryden Voss sometime in the future because I'm like, they built the whole model. There's no way they don't use him. I'm like, I thought he would appear in Bad Batch for an episode, but I'm like, if not, then something else. And this is gonna be that something else. We'll definitely see Dryden Voss in there. We already have the animation model for him, so it's like, that's money saved for them. I just think Star Wars animation is this big toy box that you have all these models and figures you get to play with, and like, you know what, let's pull Rex out of the box for this episode, and then put him back because they have all the models. I mean,
yeah. It's so
so it's
much
like,
less limited
use
than
them.
live action, which is why I wish they would go to it more often than they did. Like they came out of the box hot with all the shows, all the live action shows, and then one way
Yeah.
or another, it wasn't as good as it could have been, or it was solid and had its moments and whatnot. But I just feel like animation is the right way to go for some of these shows, and they
Yes.
haven't really refined the decision making there yet to pick and choose the right stories to tell and the right mediums. So
Ahsoka,
hopefully
we're
they get
looking at
better
you.
at it, and hopefully this is a sign that they're willing to do more sort of mainstream aimed show topics in animation going forward.
Yeah, yeah, 100. And like I said, Ahsoka, we're looking at you.
Yes,
But
very much so. I was pretty pissed off when I heard that was going to be live action.
yeah, I totally still would. I mean, I love seeing Hayden back, and
Yeah,
still,
absolutely.
we just learned that he's gonna be in season 2 of Ahsoka. But I'm just like, damn, I feel somewhat robbed of not seeing Matt Lanter and Ahsoka's. I'm sorry, Ashley's Ahsoka together on screen again, having some of those intimate, close scenes like Rosario and Hayden had for Ahsoka, but not Hayden. Just saying.
No,
Not Hayden. I never hate on Hayden. All right, it's not. It's a losing battle for real. But yeah, it's more of the sense of Maul in the underground, like you said, Black Sun. There's this criminal element aspect of Star Wars that I loved. In Clone Wars, we have like multitude of perspectives going on. We have stories with the clones, stories with the Jedi, and then stories with people from the underworld, and it would kind of alternate, and sometimes we will get the droids in there or whatnot, but whenever we got to the underworld element, whether that was Asajj gone rogue or that was with Boba Fett and Bosk or Cad Bane, there was so much depth in there that it felt a great breakaway from the traditional stories that we were with in Clone Wars, and it gave you this different perspective of life in the galaxy, especially during the Clone Wars, right? And so with them doing the show, this is a whole different angle on the galaxy during this time, because I feel like this show might line up really well with Bad Batch. And I think there's a shot in the trailer where Maul or someone are they're punching a clone trooper, or not, I'm sorry, not clone trooper, a stormtrooper from Bad Batch, from that the TKs, not the TK series,
The TK Troopers.
the TK Troopers. There you go. Yeah, the TK Troopers. Okay, I'm right. Um, but so I was like, okay, cool. So it's Bad Batch. We got which felt like the correct sequel to Clone Wars, where we get the perspectives of the clones, but this one's going to take the route of showing the perspectives of the Underworld. So now I'm just saying we need a story in this timeline of the Jedi. It'll continue the perspectives from Clone Wars, but I'm glad they're taking this, and it feels fresh. It doesn't feel overdone. Like I said, if this was another story about the Jedi are clones, I'd be a little worried at this point a little bit. Even though I was telling Caleb, I really want a Clone Rebellion story, and it seems like we're gonna wait a while for it. But if we're getting Maul, I'm okay. Like I'm good. This is okay.
Yeah,
There'll be
that'll
some.
hold me over,
They'll hold
but
me over.
I don't know what the plan is. I figured Bad Batch would just go longer than it did and
Yeah,
cover more about that than it did. But I mean, it left it very open-ended that we
definitely.
could still get that. So I hope that's part of the plan
Yeah, for
because
sure.
everybody would. I think that would do really well.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
true. Maybe when Star Wars animation turns 30 years old, they'll announce that and be like the Clone Revolution. I could totally see that. And you know
I do
what?
not want to wait that long, but
No,
maybe.
no, but maybe it'll be worth the wait, I'm sure. But I'm
Yes.
happy with this series. Maul looks better than ever. We also got that I love this part where Broadcast actually goes up to him and it says, well, did you have another? And it's Vanessa Marshall voicing Broadcast, and you hear her say, "Did you have another vision?" Because if you remember in the Siege of Mandalore arc, she was like, what does it mean? And it's, to me, it sounded like a really like young Hera, and Vanessa Marshall just has a distinct voice. So here in Recast is Hera or Vanessa Marshall. I'm just like, yeah, like we're back, baby. It just feels an extension from the Siege of Mandalore arc. I sound crazy saying that. Trust me, I'm not. But we get Recast saying like, did you have a vision, or what was your vision about, or something? So here I remember you coined the term back in the day, Maul the Prophet. So here, Maul the Prophet is back, and I know that was a throwback.
I do
Maul the
not
Prophet.
recall that.
Well, you did, and it was a big thing. You called it
I'll
first.
take
You
your
were
word
like Maul
for it.
the Prophet, and then I started coining him as Maul the Prophet too. I was like, oh, it makes sense. So the Maul the Prophet is back, having a vision, but he has a vision of what seems to be an apprentice, and Sam Witwer at the panel said that the show is going to continue or pull some stuff that George Lucas had plans for, stuff for the sequels. And in that he was going to use Darth Talon and as Maul's apprentice or something. I don't know. George was on a trip planning the sequel trilogy with Darth Talon and Darth Maul. Because it's so funny that he had plans to use Darth Maul for the sequels when Solo came around. There's a lot of people that went into that movie like, or coming out being like, Darth Maul's alive. So, or some people thinking that it took place before the Phantom Menace, which makes zero sense to me. That you
Right.
don't know Star Wars if you're thinking that,
Yeah.
but
But some
but
people didn't
anyways,
watch Clone Wars, so they didn't
well,
get that.
yeah,
Or
but that
Rebels.
was such a time because it legitimized Clone Wars, and Clone
Yeah.
Wars at the time was probably on Netflix, or it went during a time where it wasn't available on streaming anywhere. But I remember there's a time where Clone Wars was just solely on Netflix for years on end, and then it went with this phase of not being streamable anywhere, and you had to tell people try to get the DVDs, like or bootleg it if you can, but try to get the DVDs on Amazon or something. But when people would ask you to watch, and now it's just everything's on Disney Plus. So, but Darth Talon is in the mix apparently. What looks to be, and Darth Maul's going to train her. What do you think about Darth Talon being canonized and all that? I don't know much about the character, and we didn't have enough time to do research to give you a full like rundown of everything. But Caleb, what are your thoughts on this? Maul having another apprentice. How dare he replace Savage?
I
Sorry.
mean, I'm in the same boat you are. I don't know really anything about Darth Talon, to be completely honest. Before before this, I assumed that she was an Old Republic character.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just thinking of a very okay, no. I'm thinking of the you know the Old Republic cinematics,
Yep. Yep.
how
Yep.
it's like Arcan and Vexen or whatever the hell
Yep.
the brothers' names are, and there's that fight scene, the war that they like drop down into, and there's a Sith Twi'lek.
Yep.
So that's what I'm thinking of. But
100%. 100. Our minds are like, because I thought of the same thing.
yeah, yeah, I was very confused initially when I heard Darth Talon was going to be in it. But no, I mean it feels natural. Like Maul still has aspirations of um, taking over the galaxy, being a Sith Lord. I mean, we saw in Clone Wars and Rebels that Palpatine trained him more than sufficiently enough to basically create his own empire. So um, he's obviously still got those goals, and I'm kind of curious if I don't know if Savage would necessarily be mentioned by name, but just maybe if we see him reminiscing about
Ooh.
Savage, I don't know. I feel like that could be pretty powerful because he Maul's in his own really twisted ways a super sympathetic character, but it's weird that he would have a connection that close with anyone. So it feels like it would be right for him to get a mention, Savage to get a mention at some point, because he was
That would be cool.
a very important character for Maul's arc.
Yes. And uh I never thought about it this way, but I was watching Clone Wars documentaries or commentaries from season 4 because I'm doing a marathon that's going to take me right into Revenge of the Sith. But I was just doing a Clone Wars marathon just because I wanted to, and funny enough, I'm like, oh, Revenge of the Sith comes out, and I timed it up, and then afterwards I'll rewatch Bad Batch, and then the Bad Batch novel will come out this summer. But I was rewatching some commentaries, and George Lucas's daughter, Katie Lucas, worked on the show, and she said
On this
from
show?
her, yeah, on Clone Wars, she wrote some episodes.
Oh
Katie,
yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
she was saying that she always took Savage as she took an empathetic approach to Savage because he was always longing for a familial connection of something with family. He
Right.
wanted family.
I mean, he
went
had
looking
the
for his
brother
brother.
that
Right.
he got taken away from him. I think his name was like Farrell or
Yeah,
something.
and then he killed him. Right.
Yeah.
And then so Savage is still wanting that brother connection, and he goes out to sort Maul, and Maul doesn't care about any of that. Maul's on a revenge quest, and he's on a total like rampage, and you see some of that when you first get into season 5 with the episode with Maul and Hondo and Savage revival.
Yeah.
I literally just watched them. I couldn't think of the name, but you get Savage being like just following what his brother is telling him because he wants to kind of please his brother. But then at one point he's like, let us not like divide each other. Like let us share our strength and share our vision. And then
Let's
Maul's
not
like,
be
no.
rivals.
Yeah. And Maul's like, no, we need one vision, my vision. And then that's when Savage kind of like fights back against him, and then Maul puts him back in his place, or puts him in his place. But there's something for me as a viewer as I'm watching this. I feel bad for Savage. I just feel a level of empathy. And then when you get up to Rebels, you're expecting some type of callback to Savage in some way, but Maul doesn't think like that. Maul doesn't operate where it's like, oh, I don't miss him. Like Maul to me is just this character that he builds himself up and all his assets, and then he gets knocked on his ass, and then he has to rebuild again. And he's been likened to that Greek or
Sisyphus.
that mythology. What'd you say?
Sisyphus.
So there we go. Because of my lisp right now, I can't really pronounce that, but yes. So apparently,
It's
Freddie
late.
Jr.
It's late.
It's late. There, it's like what 1:30 in the morning. Freddie Prince Jr. came up with that analogy, and then Sam Witwer has passed it along. But yeah, I mean, so true. I mean, and here we are again. Maul was knocked on his ass, or as Sam Witwer said, kicked to the curb by Ahsoka. and now he's building his empire back up. And
He's
then,
slowly rolling the boulder back up the
yep,
hill,
yep,
and then we
and
just have to see when it rolls back
yes.
down.
Do we think we'll see Kira in this?
I was kind of, I mean, we talked about it beforehand, but I I don't really think so because just thinking about it, like the Solo is how far after Clone Wars? I think it's like at least 5 years, right?
Yeah, it's 6 years.
Is it? Okay. So, I mean, I don't see her fitting in unless I really don't unless it just unless the show extends for that many years in the timeline, but um yeah, I mean, she didn't actually work for Crimson Dawn as far as we know before the events of Solo, so
Now, there's
maybe
been
not.
various things that I've seen online, and it's some of them are like saying that the show is going to span. It's weird how people are coining this, but people are saying the show is going to cover things up to Solo or beyond Solo. I've seen some people say that the show is going to take place between the prequel trilogy and original trilogy, which makes sense. Obviously, like we know, duh.
Yeah, no shit.
But it's just weird. So I wasn't at the panel. I don't know. I'm just saying from secondhand knowledge or even third party knowledge, if you will. But I'm just going off what I'm seeing. But if they're able to incorporate her, cool. It doesn't seem like we're gonna. This is a continuation of the Kira and Maul story, unless each season it takes a place a different. Maybe they take the Andor approach where each arc is a different year. Maybe each season is a different year in Maul's life or something. But I don't see them doing that. I totally see them fixating on Maul's life as a building up his criminal empire. And maybe eventually the show will take a time jump and go into how he acquired an inquisitor's lightsaber and how he fell how he became so lustful again, and or not lustful, but became so driven to find Malachor, because
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
wonder if we'll see him get to Malachor
because
eventually.
where's the fallout? We've had that
Right.
question. What happens to where you build your freaking criminal empire, and then all of a sudden you go from being up on top to obviously being at the bottom in Rebels, but going and being stranded on Malachor. What drove him again to on the path of the Sith, right? So I'm curious. I mean, I'm not saying that's been a plot or anything. Obviously, they've left that open intentionally, but I'm seething to get information or just a story on that. That seems like a story worth telling, and I feel like we'll build up to that point. But I really hope we get to see it. I really care about this Maul and Kira story too, but I just want to see what the fallout is, what happened, because it seemed like we were gonna get something set up in the Solo 2 movie, but obviously that's not gonna happen. But speaking of Inquisitors, we see that freaking Merrick guy in there, and I
Yeah.
literally was watching the trailer with Caleb here, and I was like, oh, not this clown again, bro. I was like, not this clown again. I'm so tired of seeing this guy pop up in any little. This is what I'm saying about a toy box. We have this toy box, and there's some things that I love. Like we pull Captain Rex out of him. Yay, Captain Rex. We pull, even if we pull one of the Martez sisters again, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, that. But when we keep pulling these Inquisitors, I'm just like, there's something about me that I'm just like, you said it best. These guys are no longer cool.
Yeah.
Every cool thing that had to do with them is gone.
Everything cool about them was in Rebels, and most of that was wrapped up in the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And then the Grand Inquisitor got ruined in Kenobi, but that's none of my business. Never mind.
Yeah.
We can go
We're
off
talking about
topic.
animation right now.
Off topic.
But yeah, there's something to be said that I'm so sick of these Inquisitors. There's another one that popped up in the Asajj story, and I'm like, look, we
Yeah,
know
I'm
they're
pretty
gonna
sure
die.
the same one that Ahsoka killed, right?
Which one?
Well, yeah, duh. Oh, she's killed like five of them. So,
No, I
no.
before we got on here, I was like, well, we know that they're uncool, and we know that the Inquisitors are either gonna be killed by Ahsoka or Maul.
Yep. It's life, death, and taxes. Those are the three.
Yeah,
You
literally
know
life,
for
death, and
sure.
taxes. So I don't. It's just great. He's going up against Merrick or whatever. Who cares? I hope there's more interesting. And I'm not. We don't need to see a Vader and Maul fight. I'm not saying that at all. But I hope there's more interesting, much more interesting antagonists than. And I'm sure there will be, right, with the criminal element involved. But I'm just like, do we really gotta have? Which makes sense. Again, Maul's operating. Vader and Sidious probably know he's alive, and they're like, we're sending every Inquisitor after him. But we've seen that story already. We've seen that. Um, that story of Inquisitors chasing, fugitives and whatever. We get it. We get it. We don't
At some
just because it's
point,
there doesn't mean we
yeah.
have to see it.
At some point, they're gonna have to really intervene, and if I mean, obviously they're gonna send an Inquisitor at least. We know that, but at some point, I wonder if we'll get a Vader versus Maul showdown. I don't know.
There's nothing saying that we won't. I think it's in the books. I think it's in the cards that we can possibly see that.
Yep.
They were supposed to fight to the death in Rebels, and Vader was going to kill Maul, but then they decided, nah, we'll put Maul on the side and we'll continue his story in season 3, which was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this,
it made Maul go out much, much better. Uh,
yes, then he would
that
have.
was a much, much more satisfying, and it felt like a complete arc for him.
Yeah.
But
You know what?
wasn't
At
there
this
like
point,
wasn't there a moment in the season 2 finale of Rebels where he feels the cold, basically like the dark feeling when Vader shows up? I forget. I'd have to watch it again, but it's almost like there's a connection there, maybe. So
yeah,
who
yeah,
knows?
there is. Oh yeah, you're right. So it could, I mean, it could either go either way, where he feels all the dark energy coming from Vader, or familiar energy.
Right.
But yeah, there's this moment where Maul looks up, and because he has a sense, and you don't see Vader's tide directly, but you see the light
The
kind of
shadow,
going in and
right?
out, the shadow of the ship.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. They can totally squeeze that in there. So I don't know, that's interesting. I can, it would be cool to see a Palpatine encounter with Maul again.
It would.
Um, that would some type of, I'm not saying a fight, because
And
you cannot.
they have both models
They
in
have
Clone Wars
both models.
animation like
They have both
updated.
models for
So
real. And I cannot
it
believe
could
that was
happen.
Ian Abercrombie's last performance as Palpatine. In that he still has the Clovis thing, but the final recording, according to Dave Filoni, was that episode, The Lawless, as Palpatine.
Really?
What a way
Okay.
to go out! What a way to go
Yeah.
out! So, any more thoughts on this Maul show? I mean, these are not planned out thoughts. These are just what's coming off our little Clone Wars brains. But any last thoughts about Maul, Shadow Lord?
I think I'm just excited to see how Maul builds the empire, I guess, that he's or the drug empire, and how the crime syndicates are involved, and um what other characters we could see pop up. I mean, we've talked about it, obviously. We don't love when shows just kind of like shoehorn cameos and familiar characters into a story when they don't need to be there, but there are definitely characters that could be could be good to show up in this. I mean, who knows how long Asajj Ventress lasts? Who knows where Boba Fett is, what he's up to? Um, all kinds of bounty hunters, familiar faces that could show up. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I'm curious about is how long of a time span will it cover, and how long will the show be as far as seasons go, is what I'd probably say I'm most curious about.
Yeah, I see this one being. I called it for Bad Batch. I said Bad Batch is gonna be a 3 season show, and I was right. I see this one being at least 4 seasons. But I may be wrong. I probably am wrong. Probably be 3 seasons as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this show. Animation looks superb. Um, I mean, I Star Wars animation, like we said at the top, bread and butter. Like this is my original trilogy is, or if you're like a one of those purists of anything, like Star Wars animation is my home. It's my bread and butter. It's my everything. So yeah, I'm excited to see what will happen, what who will pop up in here, what story gets set up for the long run, what they cover in this era. So yeah, I'm excited. And they said we were gonna delve into Maul's character like we've never seen before. So which we better because this is his show, right?
Yep.
So I'm really excited about that. What you brought up about Savage is so interesting. I hope there's some type of discussion about Savage because that poor guy has been left in the dust, in the witch's mist, as you
Yep.
will, since forever. And he was supposed to appear briefly in Rebels in a Mirage or something, but they scrapped that because there wasn't enough time. So I'm
Didn't know that.
Savage. Did you know that?
Did not know that. That's
At
cool.
the beginning, before Maul started screaming "Kenobi," there was
Ah,
supposed to be a scene,
gotcha.
but that was scrapped. So I'm really hoping that Savage gets some type of credit here somewhere. Maybe Maul has a come to heart moment. It's like I miss my brother, or maybe he has a shrine for built for Savage, and you'll find like Savage's like missing horns, on
Or
there.
like his pendant or something, maybe.
Uh, you'll find something. I don't know.
I don't know if he'll be that sympathetic, but
No, definitely not.
hopefully he gets a mention of some sort. We'll see.
Yes, I agree. Well, with that being said, we don't know if Star Wars Database will come back on Instagram, but you'll definitely see him here again soon. We got Andor coming up. You might see him pop up on
We
here.
got to do something for Andor. Yeah,
We got to
that's the best show running.
and I'll leave that at that. But thank you guys for watching. We just were shooting the shit, nothing formal here. Thank you for tuning in. If you tuned in all the way, and if not, this is just an archive for me to look back on and be like, wow, we reacted to Maul Shadow Lord. All right. With that being said, may the force be with you. Adios.
Peace.